What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Now let's just get right into the charts here. So first off, we got Ethereum. Beautiful move. I think my previous video I did 2 days ago, we were right around here. We were kind of right under resistance, and I had mentioned that in order for us to continue, if we wanted to see the top side of the channel, first we had to take out this value area high right here, and that's exactly what we did. We broke above it. We actually back tested it pretty nicely, and you got your move up to the top of the channel. Consolidated around the top of the channel is a really good sign that it was going to break out. You got your breakout. Really good move, really nice move. I think this is a 30% move in 2 days. That's pretty impressive. I was looking for this. I was kind of hoping that we were going to get a little bit of downside actually, because I wanted a nice swing entry. Then I explained in my video earlier, we didn't get that. But that's totally good. Happy, can be happier. When you get 30% moves like this in a couple days time, that's you're never gonna be upset about that. But kind of what we have next is I did pull a fib extension in my previous video, and we actually hit that target. I think it was around 1720, which I think we were pretty close to. We were a little bit shy of that, but pretty close. There was a 1-to-1 fib extension, but really I'm looking at the yearly. So these are your yearly pivots. And you can see that when we broke out of the channel, we broke the R3 yearly pivot, and we actually back tested it pretty nicely. We have a bit of a bounce off of that area so far. So for me, as long as we're holding the R3 pivot, my next my next target for Ethereum would probably be the R4 pivot, and it's around 2084. So $2,000. Give or take, 2,000 bucks, 2087, something like that. That's kind of like the next levels that I would be looking for Ethereum. And then really, if things got pretty crazy, the R5 yearly pivot is up here. It's around 2,500 bucks, so 25, 27, something like that. But either way, like Ethereum looks really good right now. I would not be shorting this. Not financial advice, obviously, but you're kind of crazy if you're trying to short this. When you get runs like Ethereum has had, and you just get this crazy, I mean, if you look at it from a daily perspective, I mean, just look at this move. Like, trend is your friend, that's long has been the way. It's been the easiest side of the trade to be on. There's really no need to try to get in front of the bus when it's moving as fast as Ethereum is. So, like, that's kind of like, I guess, advice I maybe might have, but not financial advice though. So that's Ethereum in a nutshell. And as long as you're above this channel, if you came back to retest it, let me show you. So if you came back down to retest this, totally fine. In fact, like, I think there's a pretty good chance that that happens. Maybe around 1575 area. If we came down, back tested the channel, we'll see what the reaction looks like. But for me, there's really no reason to get bearish on it or anything like that. I just kind of want to play it by ear, see what happens. But for now, it's long and strong. That's kind of the play that I would be having for Ethereum. So again, congratulations if you hold ETH. Big win. It's had an amazing move. It continues higher. It looks really strong. That's kind of all I have to say about ETH right now. So let's go over to Bitcoin. So here's Bitcoin. I also covered this in my video the other night, and we made our way up into the resistance block that I kind of had marked off here, and it was a little bit lower. There was a naked point of control here right at 37,000 that we took out. Kind of once we took that out, it's kind of old news. So if I were to adjust this, I would probably adjust it like this now. So this is kind of the area that I would really, that I'm watching right now. We came all the way up. There's actually an hourly level you can see right here in Bitcoin so far. We came up, tagged it nicely. We had a little bit of a pullback here, but good reaction. We're sitting right here at weekly resistance. This is an absolutely massive level. So you kind of want to see what happens around here. We're above value area high, but we're below the weekly. So we'll see. If we can continue, we could maybe consolidate around here, form a little range. Not a big deal, but as far as for me personally, taking a position here is something that I would be very careful doing myself, not financial advice. But you know, I would say the risk reward kind of favors shorts more than it does longs in this area, if you were to ask me. But one thing that I would be careful of is this kind of Elon Musk candle that we had. We had his massive move up after he put Bitcoin in his Twitter profile, and I would be very careful. I kind of would have liked to have seen it, on this initial move up. When we initially moved up, we took the weekly, and it looked like Bitcoin. It looked really, really good, and I was really hoping that we were gonna at least take out this high over here, so I can see what the reaction was. That can still happen. Obviously, I wouldn't have anything set myself. Like if I was looking to take a position off of it, I'd want to be in front of my computer to monitor it in real time and check other things out. You have your CVD and volume. You want to check like those things out. But I would be really careful of if we took the high. So for instance, we took the high and it came back down. Maybe like bounce back up to weekly, and we started forming a little bit, maybe some 5-minute bear structure or something like that. I would be interested in taking a potential trade off of that, but that's if I'm up. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be up, if I'm going to be around for that trade if it does happen, but that's kind of initially what I would look at. Now, if we reclaim this hourly level, honestly, right now Bitcoin looks pretty good. You can see here, just from the Ichimoku standpoint on the hourly, we haven't even tested the Kijun this entire way up, this yellow line here. It's a really strong move up. We'll just have to see kind of what happens next. We'll be monitoring it. But if we manage to take out, especially if we take out this high, I think that's likely that that's going to happen, to be honest. But if we can reclaim this hourly and we start marching back up again, next area of interest for me would probably be 40,000. 40,500, 40,600 zone. That's kind of the next area that I would be looking for a reaction. But to be honest, I think if we got up there, I think there's a fair chance that we could push for all-time highs. Now, if we were to lose this level, so this is the value area high of this big range that we've been in. If Bitcoin does come down and we start to lose this level, especially like you can see, again, from Ichimoku standpoint, we haven't even lost the Tenkin yet. So if we were to come back down, lose the Tenkin, and if we got acceptance below value area high here, or value area high, we could potentially look for some downside. And that could end up, that could give you a nice trade setup there. But it's too early to, it's just something you're gonna have to monitor. But it's too early to tell what's going to happen. But for now, Bitcoin looks pretty good. So we'll see how that goes. So this is polka dot. And we had a nice breakout today. So you see here, we got our initial, you got an impulse move up. Really, really nice range that dot was in before we finally got another breakout move. So you can see here, once we broke the top of the channel this morning, if you zoom in, we actually broke the channel, back tested it perfectly, and then got another move up. So Polkadot, it looks really, really good. Some upside targets. Again, if I'm going based off of my yearly pivots, you can see here that Polkadot really, it does a pretty good job of respecting this pivot. So that's kind of what I would base, my next target on. You can see here's your yearly pivot, came back down. That's pretty close to testing it, I would say. Then you got your impulse move up, resistance at R2 yearly pivot, back tested your R1 perfectly, got another impulse up, which guess where your resistance was? R3 pivot. Then you rejected off of there, pretty close to your R2 pivot. And then you started ranging. So this is a really nice range to be trading. And then you got another impulse out of this range today, which I showed on lower time frame. Again, you go back, you got your back test. So this was a really nice long opportunity. So a lot of times when you have something break a range like this, and if it comes back to your channel that back test a lot of times is a really, really good trade to enter. And then you got your impulse out of here. So if I were to go to the, whoops, if I were to go to the daily again, where's your next pivots? So R4 coming in around $24. So we're $3 away from that. I mean, based upon how DOT has reacted around its previous yearly pivots, I would say that your R4 yearly pivot is probably one you're going to find initial resistance at. And then you have your R5 all the way up at $29. So those are two targets that are, you know, kind of next on my list for DOT, but DOT looks great. When you pull this chart out, you know, you had your initial listing here on Binance, and then you just had this sideways consolidation, accumulation zone here, and then you've got your impulses out, and it's looking really good. Another impulse here, so we'll see what happens. So next, you know, I'm just talking about this because I think it's funny. So on crypto Twitter, you know, there's a lot of people are talking about up only, right? Everything's up only, which I think is funny. Now this is a real chart of what up only really looks like. So this is INJ. I think it's injective protocol. But literally since it got listed, I mean, so you have like your sideways, you know, a little bit of consolidation around here, but what a move. I mean, this is impressive. So you haven't even tested. Now it's new, you know, there's not a lot of price history at all. But I mean, you haven't even tested your Kijun yet. Again, this yellow line, and this is your equilibrium. So this is where, you know, if I was to be, and then this is not financial advice again, but if I'm not in INJ, which I'm luckily I'm in INJ and I've been in since the beginning, but if I wasn't in INJ, I mean, you could FOMO in, you know, you could chase this rally and, you know, basically roll the dice. For me, I don't typically like to do that. I would try to find a better entry. So for instance, if you're looking just at Ichimoku here, and it's not fully developed, that you can't even see the cloud entirely yet because it's such a new asset. But you can see here that it's respected the Tenkin, this blue line, really well. I mean, anytime you bought the Tenkin, you're doing really, really well. So for me, if I wasn't in, I would be paying attention to where this Tenkin is. And, you know, if you see price happen to come take a dip there, I mean, historically, whatever short history this actually has, but that's been a pretty nice area to take along. And then your Kijun here, which is usually a really nice place to place bids to. You know, if you're lucky, you catch a wick down or whatever, but that hasn't been tested yet. But I just wanted to talk about INJ just briefly because this is a really, really nice example of what up only looks like. And to be honest, like you're already, it's really new. So as far as pivots go, you know, I'm not sure how I would trust this, but you know, your R3 pivot, you've based on and you're moving off of. I think, oh, so here's a one-to-one that I pulled. So here's a fib extension that I did pull. And basically you have this sideways, this is kind of like this was a consolidation area. You know, you had looks like a couple weeks of sideways here, and you have your wick down and you have your impulse out of this consolidation. So this is kind of how I measured this fib extension. So it was the low right here of your, I mean, this is like the very end of your consolidation right before the impulse. So you take it from where the impulse started to the top of this wick right here. You can see that. And then the bottom right here of this move down. Basically, that gives you a one-to-one extension of $14, which, considering where the R4 yearly pivot is, I think this is actually a really interesting area to watch. So I'm actually going to put a box here, monitor this, and see how price does if and when it gets there. And then also your R5 yearly pivot, really, it would be kind of this zone that I would be watching afterward. So these are kind of the two areas of interest. You know, if INJ continues on its trajectory, which if you look at the overall history of this, I mean, there's no reason why, you know, these targets would be crazy targets or anything. It looks like it's headed there. But this is kind of the areas where I would be looking for potential resistance and watch for reactions. So that's INJ for you. So the last one is an interesting one, and it's not a USDT pairing, it's a Bitcoin pairing. So this is Atom. And I chose Atom because there's an interesting setup that I want to talk about really briefly. But this is your edge to edge setup for Ichimoku. So basically price enters cloud, and you have your bullish TK cross right here. So your Tenkin and bullishly cross your Kijun. So your Tenkin's your blue line, your Kijun's your yellow line, and you have price close within your cloud right here. So this is actually right here, right there is when your entry trigger is, and your Chiku span is above price. So this purple line, it's kind of hard to see, but this purple line right here is above price right here. So anyway, so you have your long entry and your stop loss. Your stop loss is technically below cloud, but your Kijun's kind of lined up with the bottom of the cloud. Like, I'm not sure, like I don't know if I would call this like a picture perfect setup by any means, but for me, especially knowing where my other support and resistance lines are, is something that I would be willing to take personally. But again, it's not financial advice. But so I'm going to come back to this, but I'm just going to show you overall. So if I take Ichimoku off just for a second. So there was a really nice channel that Adam was trading in. So you have your low to your high, to your low, to your high, and then all the way back down to your low. And you can see here, like I remember this pretty well. I was actually taking a long here, and I got stopped out. But I was taking a long here because when you have a trend like this, especially when you have a really nice channel, when you come back down to channel lows and you have your monthly support right here, to me, like that's a pretty good risk reward for a long. And you would just look to long this again to the top of the channel. But that didn't work out. You can see here, once we lost the channel, we actually tried to come back in. I think this is actually where I was trying to take my long, if I remember. And then we lost the channel again. And if you look close, we lost the channel. We actually back tested the channel a couple of times, and then we pushed off. We came back to back test this monthly level. That was too much of resistance. You can see here again. So it's your support, kind of support, right? Then you're messing around with the channel. You got your back test. You couldn't get back in the channel, and you lost your monthly here. Back test your monthly, and you got the move down. So you can see since then, price has actually reclaimed these monthly levels right here. So now you've had your SR flip, and price actually came very close to this monthly level right here, which was really big resistance back here. So this monthly is a really critical level. And you're kind of ranging right now in between these two levels, and you have your macro value area low, which is a very important level that you're currently below, but you're right on it pretty much. So if I turn back, where is it? I turn my Ichimoku back on. So back to the setup. So when you have your edge to edge, when your edge to edge trade is confirmed, which again, it was confirmed right here on this candle, your setup kind of looks like this. So I'll just give you an idea of what it would look like. So your setup entry was right here. Let's say that you took it right as soon as you could. So basically you would be looking to the other end of the cloud. So you can see here, especially you have this nice flat Kumo right here. So this is the flat part of your cloud that acts as a magnet for price a lot of times. This is kind of your first initial target, which lines up really nicely with your macro point of control, which is a massive level too. So this is kind of where you would be looking to. Your stop loss, like I said, it would be below cloud, but you kind of have your Kijun here. So, and you have this low that you actually wick through your monthlies and close back up here. So I would probably put my stop below this wick right here. So this is a typical edge to edge setup. Now, I'm not in this. I'm in Atom, I've been in Atom for a while, but I haven't taken this particular setup that I'm showing you, but I'm just kind of showing you, give you an idea of what the edge to edge trades actually look like. So basically you're risking 16% or so to get 40%. So it's 2.43, which, I mean, you have to look at your, when you're trading and hopefully you're journaling your trades, and you have to go back and see, like, is this a setup that you actually want to take? Like, is this worth it? So this is the setup of the edge to edge trade. Now, there's something that you can do also to lower your risk a little bit, and you can ladder entry. So laddering is kind of I want to say it's more, I don't know if it's more advanced way of trading, but it's just it's something that can kind of help you limit your downside sometimes. But if your ladders don't fill and price decides to take off, then you might not fill the entire size order that you like, so maybe you might miss out there. So that's kind of something that you have to figure out on your own, kind of what works for you. But in this case, like, let's say instead of putting in, if I wanted to trade $100, for instance, so if I wanted to have $100 on this trade, I could put in all $100 right here, right at this trade entry, because again, your confirmation was right here on this candle close. So instead of putting in all my $100 though, and I'm risking, my stop loss would be here, so I could lose 16%. Maybe I want to put, $25 at where the entry should be, and then maybe I'll have 4 different entries. So I'll show you. So maybe I have one right here. Then maybe I put another entry right here. Maybe I put another entry right here. Maybe I do 25, 25, 25, and 25 down here or something. That's just an example. So, but if you do that, what you can do, you can actually average your entry out, and maybe your average entry might end up being down here. And all of a sudden you can see that overall you're risking 10%, right? Your upside changes. So now it's, you're risking 10% to win 50% potentially. And your risk reward looks a lot better. So this is something like you'd have to play around with. Obviously, I was just giving that as an example. You have to kind of figure out what works best for you. But in this particular trade, again, that's kind of what you would be looking for as far as ichimoku goes, your edge to edge. But you have these other levels that, ichimoku, real quick, is kind of a system that's based on its own. So like if you're going to trade that setup, you trade the setup, right? So I don't care about these monthly levels so much. I don't care about your value areas. All I care about is that I got my entry here and my target is here. So again, let me try to, so if my entry is here, my target is here. That's all I care about in Ichimoku. But I really like my levels personally, and I've had a lot of success trading kind of the way that I do. It's a little bit different, but I want to be aware of the other really important levels. That way I can find zones of confluence that help me pick better targets, if that makes sense. So for me, if I was taking this trade again, and you're looking towards the top of the cloud here, now I know that my macro point of control is right here, and this is a huge, huge, huge level. So would I put my take profit, at the very top of the cloud here? Probably not. I would probably front run it a little bit, at least, just to give myself some room, because I know how big of a level this macro point of control is. So that's also an example of, using other analysis, maybe other indicators if that's your thing, but finding confluences to help give your trades and give your zones a little bit of more strength, if that makes sense. So like it helps build confluence. The more confluences you have, typically the better, that trade is going to play out, for instance. So if I'm looking for zones to buy, and if I'm only trading off of, one indicator or something, I can almost guarantee that my win rate is going to be significantly lower And let's say if I'm unwilling to take a position unless I have 3 or more confluences. So typically when that happens, you know, and you have more confluences in a region for you to take a trade, a lot of times that'll play out better for you over the long term. So that's Adam though. And so basically this is kind of the entry, you know, as far as Ichimoku goes, this is kind of the trade that I wanted to point out. But I thought it was an interesting case, or you know, it's an interesting one to look at just from the standpoint of this channel and how well, you know, the channel traded. Obviously, when you lost the channel here, you see what price did, but now you're kind of getting, you know, you're getting your signals that it might be, you know, you have your Ichimoku set up here. Maybe you could be looking to get price back into this channel here. And for me, that tells me like if price is able to get back in the channel here, maybe Adam can go back to, you know, doing what it was doing previously, and you can go right back to trading in that nice ascending channel that was there, which would be really, really good. But anyway, hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please smash the like button, click subscribe. That way you're notified of any of my future videos. But hope you guys have a good night. Hope you guys are making a lot of money, and peace out.